Schmidt, we good to go? So welcome home, everyone. No matter where you reside now or how long it's been since you've been back to Plainview or PHS, I hope to some degree it still feels a little bit like home. I'm Dr. Darren Arnold, class of 1985, and beginning my 10th year as superintendent, which is twice as long as the average superintendent tenure in Nebraska, so I'm kind of on borrowed time here. But there's just too much work yet to be done. Many of you likely, and this is a bit of a correction to the program that says I'm going to talk a little bit about the 1950 building. Well, it's not the 1950 building, it's the 1920 building. It's actually 30 years older than 1950, but many of you likely enjoyed walking through some of the familiar parts of your school, and while you were doing so, you likely said, gosh, it looks just like it did when I went to school here. And while that's a good, fond feeling, that does identify a bit of a problem. Okay, if it looks just like it did when anybody on this half of the gym went to school here, and that was my school too in the early 80s. And so it is a thrill for me to be able to walk those halls every day, you know, and recall those years, my high school years too, where I spent an inordinate amount of time trying not to do what I was really supposed to be doing. But it does illustrate a stark reality that we're educating kids for the future today in 75 to 100-year-old buildings and classrooms. Okay, so about a year ago, our school board embarked on a formal process to determine if it's time for a multi-generational investment in school facilities. Most school districts go 20 to 30 years between capital investments in school buildings. Plainview Public Schools' last capital investment was, I think, 1975. It was the last bond election, and it was to build the 1977 addition. That opened in December of 77. The vote was likely about 1975. So we've gone 50 years without asking our folks to make a multi-generational investment. By this measure, we are falling woefully behind our competitors, and that's what other public schools are. They are competitors, not only in the athletic sense, but for prospective teachers, which are becoming in short supply, and for students. Today's reality is that students and families exercise choice of school, and facilities matter. So whether you still live in the district or not, I hope you're able to pay some attention to our efforts over the course of the next many months, where we could possibly, and this will be a school board decision, where we could possibly see our school board ask our patrons to leave a legacy to our school district, the community of Plainview, and for future PHS alumni in the form of modern facilities that put Plainview back on top as providing the best experience for our students in the best facilities in the area. Russ, come on down. You can take your seat. It's okay. You're not going to distract me. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, folks, oh, isn't that sweet? Just like back in the day. But right now we want to focus not on our future, but on recognizing some of the greatness of our past. The Hall of Fame idea was generated about 7 or 8 years ago in a conversation I had with Larry Knock. We wanted to recognize the best of the best in PHS activity and performance history. No matter how far removed you get from your high school days, those core memories exist, and maybe even we become more fond of those good old days at PHS. This will be our 5th induction of members and teams into the Plainview High School Hall of Fame. Our committee has focused the first several years exclusively on past athletic and stage performance achievements. This gave us precise data to make easy measurements and distinction on who had the most records, medals, etc. Since we started this conversation, we've been asked to consider for the Hall of Fame alumni who achieved great distinction after graduation in their community's career field or in the military. We recognize that our alumni can make Plainview Public Schools proud by what they do wearing the uniform or performing on the stage, but certainly by also what they do after graduation. We tell our graduates, in fact, just last month we told our graduates here on stage to go and change the world. That's a common theme. Go and change the world. Our first inductee today is certainly one of our own who, without dispute, is admired and respected in his field throughout the world in cardiothoracic medicine. It's a good thing for the medical field that Lyle Joyce wore glasses, or he may have been an astronaut. He found out that he couldn't be accepted into the NASA program because he wouldn't be able to get the astronaut's helmet over his glasses. During the 50s and 60s, there was a tremendous amount of innovation in science and medicine, and Lyle was intrigued about being on the cutting edge of discovery and advances in these fields. While navigating a quite diverse and successful high school career in basketball in this very gym, and in track and field, I think he was an excellent pole vaulter, if I'm not mistaken. At least there's a great picture in the yearbook of you pole vaulting back in the day, playing the baritone in the band, and providing leadership in clubs and earning valedictorian honors. Lyle was inspired by his superintendent to chase his dream and to leave the safe comforts of Plainview in northeast Nebraska and pursue an elite level of research, study, and medical discovery. I would suspect that his most personally gratifying time of his career was when there were 5 Joyces practicing medicine at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. For many years, he and his son David were the country's superstar father-son team for open heart surgery. In a recent interview, Dr. Joyce credited his upbringing on the farm in small-town Nebraska for setting him on the right path to change the world and to do it with a focus on the family and a genuine care and concern for his patients. Lyle Joyce, would you please come forward? Lyle Joyce knew as a young man that he wanted to be a pioneer in something. He became fascinated with anatomy, observing autopsies of their farm animals by the local veterinarian. He was inspired by cardiac surgical breakthroughs that were in the news and concluded that he wanted to be an open heart surgeon. After graduation at the top of his class from PHS in 1965, Lyle attended Baylor University and Baylor College of Medicine in Texas. He would continue to study and serve as a cardiothoracic surgeon at the University of Utah, the University of Minnesota, the Minneapolis Heart Institute, the Mayo Clinic, and the Medical College of Wisconsin. Dr. Joyce served as co-surgeon on the team that implanted the first permanent total artificial heart into Barney Clark in 1982. He then became the first surgeon ever to implant a total artificial heart in a woman and a child. These experiences led to his appointment as the president of the American Society for Artificial Internal Organs. Always a teacher, he helped start a cardiothoracic surgery residency program in Kenya to bring these life-saving procedures to other reaches of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome Lyle Joyce from the class of 1965 into the Plainview High School Hall of Fame.
Thank you. It's good to be back, and I have to say it's a real honor to be recognized as a member of the Plainview High School Hall of Fame, particularly when, to be honest with you, I don't have any athletic achievements that I can really brag about. Perhaps the best I can do is brag about my granddaughter here, who runs for Dort, who just got back from nationals, placing 6th in the steeplechase race. So we're proud of her. But on the other hand, I have to admit, her genes probably came from the other side of the family. So, but I really appreciate this. And while I wasn't all that great at sports, I did enjoy being part of the team. And I know that, take basketball for example, I know my coach played me as much as he dared, but I had to face the fact that I just didn't have the talents of Pete Richling and Steve Miller and Davis and Jim Hufford and the rest of the team. And yet, you know, I could be there with the team. And I remember one day sitting there on the bench and being the best bench warmer I could be. I looked across the court at the other team to see whether there was any of the team players on the other team that were warming the bench as much as I was. And there was one particular guy who was just a little bit shorter than me, and I noticed he wasn't playing much either. So I felt like I had some company at least. And little did I know that 20 years later I'd be walking into his hospital room in Minneapolis to tell him that we were going to have to implant a total artificial heart in his chest in order to save his life. He was dying from a viral cardiomyopathy. And miraculously, at 3 a.m., the morning that we were going to take him to the operating room to put the artificial heart in, a donor heart became available. We transplanted him, and he did very well. In fact, he was ready to go home on the 4th post-operative day. I mean, it was a record. And we were all excited, and I went in to discharge him that morning night, and I was really disappointed to see that he was floridly depressed. And I said, Chuck, what's going on? You're doing great. And he says, well, I was until this morning when the finance people came in. And he said, they're going to make me sell all my assets in order to pay the hospital bill. And he said, what you don't know is that last year I was third in the world in calf roping. And I have one goal in life, and that is to be the world champion calf roper. And he says, I only have one asset that's worth anything. And I looked at him and I said, that's your champion horse, isn't it? And he said, yep. He says, if I lose that horse, I'll never have a shot at being the world champion. And then he looked up at me with a little bit of a grin and he said, they told me to talk to you because they said you like horses. Well, to make a long story short, Tina and I bought his champion horse and one of his other horses, and then turned around and gave that horse back to him. And 6 months later, we all had the chance to go to Oklahoma City to watch him win the world championship. We became close friends after that. In fact, he taught all of our kids how to ride when he came up for the various visits and post-op checks. And he did a great job of taking care of that heart. In fact, he became about the 6th longest survivor in the world with the first heart. And then after 31 years later, it finally gave out. And at that point, he came to Wisconsin, where my son and I were practicing, and the two of us had the opportunity to transplant another heart in his chest together. Well, people often ask me, how do you do it? You know, how do you ever manage being a heart surgeon, being on call all the time, operating all night, and you know, I always tell them, it's no different than being a farmer. I mean, if a sow's having troubles delivering pigs at 2 a.m. Christmas morning, you're going to be out there. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a holiday or whether it's in the middle of the night or not. So, you know, it was kind of a way of life for me, and I really never ever had any problems with the hours and being on call with being a heart surgeon. I have to admit I owe so much of my success to the experiences that I've had growing up here in Plainview. I mean, it didn't hurt that I had a sister who was a lot smarter than me, Linda. And, you know, she was 2 years older, so she maintained a straight A average, and of course the teachers were expecting me to do the same, and I had to struggle to keep up with that, but that was good for me. And I had parents that believed education was the most important thing. I love being a farmer. and could have easily been a farmer. And some of the favorite times that I remember are things like hopping in Dale Johnson's truck and riding down to Sioux City with a load of fat cattle, and then walking those catwalks, you know, in the stockyard, waiting for the slaughter house to come by and tell us what they're going to pay for our cattle. And it were things like that that I think Dad sort of had an influence on me. There was that anxiety of whether you were going to get paid much for your cattle or not. And then one time I remember coming out of the dental office when I had a lot of dental work done. And he paid the big bill, and he looked at me and he says, "Butch, whatever you do, I want you to get a job where you tell the customer how much they're going to pay you, rather than asking the customer how much they're going to pay you." Plainview was a place where I could do everything, and you know, that was really neat. I mean, I could be in FFA, I could be in the band, I could be in sports, I could be in 4-H and choir. In fact, I don't know any other place that the choir director would drive to the track meet and pick me up after my events to take me to the district choir concert, only to stop at Tom's Music House in Norfolk on the way through so that I could record my baritone solo entering the music band contest and winning the music band contest that they were running there in Norfolk. I mean, you know, where else in the world can you have that sort of attention paid to you as a student? I always felt like the teachers really did care for me and really cared about me, including the teacher that called me aside and said, "Now listen, a farm boy wanting to become a cardiac surgeon, forget it. It's never going to happen. You need to set your standards lower." And then there was Gene Lavin, who called me in and said, "If you want to be a heart surgeon, you need to go somewhere where the famous people are." That's how I got to Texas. And going to Texas, I had the opportunity to work in Dr. Michael DeBakey's lab building the first total artificial heart. Also had the chance to meet a beautiful, wonderful Texas Southern belle who would become my wife, Tina, and spend the next 55 years with me through the thick and the thin. There's just you know, so many of those things about Plainview that molded my course, and I just can't express enough appreciation for that. They say that you can take a boy off the farm, but you can never take the boy out of the farm, or take the farm out of the boy, and I certainly can attest to that. No matter how many places I've lived or traveled, I have to admit that there's nothing quite like the feeling of driving back into Plainview, Nebraska, and onto the farm where it all began. Thank you very much.
Not your typical cardiothoracic surgeon. How many would say, "Yes, I'll buy that horse and give it back to you so you can fulfill that dream"? You know, you'd never see him again except the bills. You know, that would come again and again and again. So Dr. Joyce, thank you for being here. We're certainly very proud to have you as a PHS alum. It was a good thing that Jennifer Huffman couldn't dance, or her high school athletic career could have been quite different. When PHS decided to start a new dance team in the early 2000s, they held tryouts for interested girls. As an athletic young high school student, Jennifer showed up here in the Tartan gym on a Saturday morning and watched a demonstration of a high-energy dance that they were going to learn for auditions. She turned to her friend Erica Holmes and said, "Yeah, I ain't doing that." At that moment, she turned around and put all her efforts into her athletics. Her teammates and coaches recall that Jen's greatest attributes were her humility. She started varsity as a freshman, on the volleyball team, but stayed true to herself, didn't let it get to her head. She built up her teammates and made practices and games fun. She also had supreme confidence in her skills, wanting the ball at the end of the game, when the game was on the line. Combine all these immeasurable skills with her consistent performance across all sports for 4 years, and you get a Hall of Fame career. Jennifer Hoffman, would you please come forward? Jennifer Hoffman was a natural athlete, competing every season for PHS and then some. She burst onto the scene as a freshman, earning a varsity letter and all-conference honorable mention in volleyball. Before her career was over, she held multiple records for kills in a match and career, as well as multiple All-State honors and a Norfolk Daily News Elite 8 recognition as one of the best volleyball players in Northeast Nebraska. She led the Lady Pirates on the basketball court as well, earning 3 varsity letters and route to all-conference and all-state honorable mention honors. She was a triple jump school record holder in track. If school activities weren't enough, Jennifer took her talent to the lanes and joined the local bowling club and helped lead them to a state title. Jennifer went on to play volleyball collegiately at Southeast Community College in Beatrice. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome Jennifer Hoffman from the class of 2004 into the Plainview High School Hall of Fame.
Public speaking still isn't my thing. I've coached at the last 3 state tournaments, and this is still way more terrifying. So I just want to thank all my coaches and my teachers. I loved Plainview. I loved high school. I still follow them. I want to especially thank my mom for everything that she did for me throughout my childhood to get me to where I'm at. I'm still heavily involved in sports. I coach high school volleyball. I coach 8 and under softball, which is a huge difference. I help with all sports at school, and I just really love trying to get them to love sports like I did. I never thought just going to school, playing sports, and doing the things I love would get me here, so, sorry. I saw Jamie had kind of a long speech, so I'm going to make mine short so he has more time up here. Thank you so much.
Speaking of Jamie Alexander set the standard for excellence for a 3-sport athlete as the new millennium dawned in the year 2000. His combination of innate athleticism, work ethic, and competitiveness combined to help him carve out one of the best overall athletic careers in PHS history. But unlike most elite athletes, Jamie was just getting started after he hung up his cleats and turned in his PHS uniform for the last time. Setting school records in each sport and earning conference, district, and state honors only fueled his appetite to continue to compete against the best. And 20 years after graduating from PHS, those competitive juices got the best of him again as he pursued an alternative pathway to earn a teaching certificate so that we could hire him back here at Plainview Public Schools to train, inspire, and mentor today's PHS students to be the best that they can be. So his PHS athletic journey continues. Jamie Alexander, would you please come forward? Jamison Alexander was a quintessential all-sport athlete for the Pirates, earning 11 varsity letters. He set numerous school records, many of which still stand today. On the football field, Jamie's talent earned him all district honors as a skilled kicker. He averaged nearly 40 yards per punt and converted a school record 47-yard field goal. In basketball, his exceptional shooting range earned him all-state honorable mention honors. A versatile scoring threat inside and beyond the arc, Jamie set a school record with 9 3-pointers in a game, contributing to a career-best 33-point performance. Track and field, however, is where Jamie truly left his mark. By the time he graduated, he held school records in 3 events: the sprints, the hurdles, and the pole vault. He was a 2-time Northeast Nebraska Track Classic champion and state medalist in the pole vault. Jamie continued his success at the collegiate level, competing at Hutchinson Community College in Kansas, where he became a 4-time JUCO All-American in the pentathlon and decathlon. He then took his talent to Oklahoma University and earned all Big 12 honors by placing 8th in the decathlon and securing his place as one of the most accomplished Division I athletes in PHS history. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome Jamison Alexander from the class of 2004 into the Plainview High School Hall of Fame.
Hello, thank you. First, I want to express how honored I am to receive this achievement. I want to also congratulate all the other inductees today. I want to thank my family for being here today, my wife Sam, and our two sons, Parker and Banks, my sisters, Brandy and Nicole, and their families, my grandma Dorothy, and my parents, Joe and Galen. My parents have always believed in me and been my biggest supporters. They would often get off work and drive through the night and come to one of my many track meets all across the country. As a young man, I probably did not express to them how much that meant to me to have them there. I want to thank the committee too. Also the great coaches that I had here in Plainview, Ray Dorr, Bob Green, Raleigh Johnson, Joe Anderson, and Brent Muller. These guys were great men of character whom I always respected. They pushed me, helped mold me to the man I am today. They taught me about hard work, commitment, pushing through the pain to chase my goals. I remember one day we were running a circuit and track, and for those of you guys who don't know what that is, it's a really brutal back-to-back. It's a really brutal long distances back-to-back with very low recovery time. This often made me nauseous. I remember one time that we were getting at the end of this workouts and I was throwing up. And at that moment, I wanted my coach to tell me that it was enough and we were done. But Mr. Green looked at me and said, let's finish this. This is where champions are made. He taught me that you have to be willing to do what others won't to get what others want. This is one lesson that I learned early from Mr. Green. I am better for learning that lesson at such a young age. In life, I believe everyone's path to greatness has a fork in the road, where you must make a choice, put in the work, and figure it out or quit. I always loved pole vault, and I loved what it stood for. I loved that you had to be fearless, and as my dad would say, a little bit of a kamikaze. The thought of getting on a pole and completely getting inverted and then free falling back down captivated my attention at a really young age. So in 7th grade, I started to vault, but never mastered really how to bend the pole and use the momentum to gain higher heights. So in 10th grade, my father, still struggling with this issue, my father gave me two options: face my fears and learn how to do it right, or choose a new event. He said to me, if you keep pogo sticking, then you're gonna have to change your event. I knew I didn't want to do that because vaulting was the reason why I was out for track. That night, my father and I sat down, we talked about this decision, and on the upcoming Saturday, we'd go up to the pole vault pit and try to figure out the problem. That Saturday morning, I started vaulting and found out that I was doing the same old habits. Frustrated, after 8 to 10 jumps, I told myself, this time I don't care what happens, I'm gonna bend the pole. As I'm standing on the runway, Mr. Dorr pulls up. He was my pole vault coach, and what he didn't know that day was that was a make or break a day for me. So I took off down the runway, determined to bend the pole. I jumped into the pole and bent it so much, I didn't know what to do. I got scared at that moment. I did the one thing that you should never do, and that's let go. The pole shot me 10 foot this way. The pole sprung out of the box, shot over the chain fence and over the alley. I'm laying on my back. I see Coach Dorr running over to me saying, Jamie, what's going on? You're rolling on the ground. The pole flew over the fence. In the 30 years of me working track, I've never seen that in my life. What the heck are you doing? My answer was, I was trying to bend the pole, Coach. He said, well, you accomplished that. Next time, try to hold on to the pole and land in the pit. You know, there are mats there for a reason. It's a lot softer than the ground. He was right. In that moment, in that moment, my fear became a reality. What I was scared of happening just happened to me. The very next jump is the reason why I'm here today. I faced my fear, and I did that exact same thing, but this time I held on. And for the first time in 4 years, I had a pure jump. That Saturday was when I learned how to vault. That Saturday was my fork in the road. If my dad did not push me to be better, I would not be standing here today. So when life gets hard for me time to time, I think back to that day, reminding myself to work hard and never quit, even when I get thrown on my back. I get back up and try again. These are the life lessons that I learned here in Plainview. These have all helped me achieve everything that I have in my life today. Life led me down many paths, but this year it led me to take a job here where it all started. I finished up my first year as a strength and conditioning coach here in Plainview, and looking at my next chapter, my goal is to lead and mold these young students into the path, just like the past coaches did for me. When I was hired here, I had the opportunity to take the junior high track position. My goal was to get as many kids out as I could and make it a good, fun time. There was one athlete that was not going to go out. And I talked him into it, and I told him it would be fun. I told him I had just the event for him to try. He's kind of like me a little bit. And it was the vault. It was a great experience for both of us. He struggled at the beginning, questioning his decision. I told him never to give up. I told him keep working hard, come every day with the attitude of being better than you were yesterday. With 2 weeks left in the year, he jumped and broke a school record that I held. In that moment, I can't even explain the feeling, seeing the joy that he felt and that I felt. I know now that I want to help these athletes chase their dreams and hopefully help them and many other future Pirates to join me on the wall. I want to be someone that they respect and someone that teaches them life lessons that they will carry through their life, just as the great mentors did with me. So once again, I'm very grateful for this achievement, and thank you all for being here today.
Comparing someone to Superman generally indicates that one is obviously thought to have some sort of superpowers. Blake Mosel's high school activity performance and leadership resume arguably qualifies him for Superman status. But when he took the uniform, or the cape, off, he also mirrored the mild-mannered, genuine, humble, and unassuming alter ego of Clark Kent. If there was an activity beyond the classroom during high school, Blake participated in it. And no matter what it was, it got 100% commitment to perfectionism. Plainview High School Hall of Fame speech coach Tammy Schindler recalls that during speech meets, Blake's OID team commanded a bit of a cult following from other towns who just wanted to be in the room during their performances. Blake possessed intangible qualities such as resilience, confidence, humbleness, kindness, sense of humor, and moral character. So oftentimes, a coach's best move was to just get out of his way and let him do his thing. In addition to a Hall of Fame athletic and stage performance career, Blake also served PHS as class president, student council, National Honor Society, school newspaper editor, played first trumpet in the band, and was homecoming king. He truly did it all for Plainview High School. Blake Mosel, would you please come forward? Few PHS students achieved the pinnacle of individual and team performance in multiple arenas as Blake Mosel. Whether it was the field, court, track, or stage, Blake quite often found himself on the victory stand. As a multi-talented senior, he quarterbacked the Plainview Pirate football team to a state championship on the UNL Memorial Stadium turf, earning all state honors. A few months later, he led the Pirates to the state basketball tournament and an opening round victory, which was the first for the Pirates since 1937. The team concluded the season with a 19-5 record and ranked number 3 in the major publications. The following month, he won state titles in 2 events at the state speech championships, which helped the Pirates cruise to their first team title at the state speech meet. He capped off his senior year at the state track meet, competing in the 800-meter run. Blake went on to play football collegiately at Wayne State College. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Blake Mosel from the class of 2006 into the Plainview High School Hall of Fame.
Well, I first just want to say thank you to the alumni committee, Dr. Arl and Brooke, for putting this on. This is a fantastic event, and I'm honored to be a part of it. When I first got the letter, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure that I actually was being inducted to this. I sent Dr. Arl an email back, and because the 2005 football team is also being inducted, I thought that maybe it was just for that. And I said, is this an individual award or is this part of the team? And he said, no, this is an individual award. It's a coincidence that the team is also being inducted. So I'm very grateful, very honored. And I look at this as more of a tribute to the people who surrounded me throughout my high school career. And I have to give credit where credit is due, and it starts with two people that are sitting back at the back table, my mom and my dad. I just remember many nights coming home from athletic events and sitting and talking with them for quite a long time. Win or loss, they would share their advice, and they showed how invested they were into me, into all of my activities. And it took becoming a dad to realize how invested they were. I don't think at the time you really appreciated it as a kid, but as a parent now, I know truly how much they supported me and cared. One of my fondest memories, to show how much they cared, is of, and it's a great memory just in itself, is the Hardington Cedar Catholic game in football my senior year. So we were in the playoffs, as a semifinal round, and we were losing. We were down, I think it was 10 to 14 or something like that. And we had kind of rallied the troops. We needed to stop. It was fourth quarter with about a couple minutes left. And I was usually a very positive speaker, a positive leader for all of my teammates. But I remember it was a third down, third and short, and we had to make a stop. And we were in a defensive huddle, and I grabbed Sean Meyer, who was a Hall of Famer, and several others, and I had some choice words, which I won't repeat because my daughter is here and she would say, Daddy, you need to pray to God. So, but I had fired Sean up. I had said, we've got to get a stop here, along with some other of my teammates. And we went up to the line, the quarterback went through his cage, the ball was snapped, and Sean let out an ungodly beller at the line of scrimmage, bust through, and stuck the fullback for a 2-yard loss. And we ended up getting the ball back. So a lot of us remember on that team the final drive to score and to advance in the playoffs there. But I remember that yell that Sean gave out, and the encouragement it took to make him make that stop. He needed to do it. So there was, I think, 10 or 15 seconds left on the clock. We had drove down to the 10 or 15-yard line. Coach calls a play action pass, and I had rolled out, and all of my receivers were covered, and we needed to score a touchdown. Time was running out. And I look into the end zone, and there is a player with both of his hands waving in the air, and he was somewhat open, and unbeknownst to me, it was David Rogge, who was supposed to be blocking for me on that play. I don't know how he found himself 10, 15 yards downfield, but he did. And his nickname was Stonehands. And the reason his nickname was Stonehands is because he couldn't catch a cold. We had no play action, and he would be fine with me saying this, he would agree. He had no hands whatsoever, but I didn't have an option. I threw the ball, I got hit, and I didn't see if he caught it or not, but the crowd went crazy, and it was our fans. So David caught the ball. It was a miracle. It was his only catch of the year. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure his younger brother Nate told me that was his only catch of his high school career, period, which is outstanding. So the game had ended, we had won, and I'm getting to my parents to show how they cared. We were at Hardington, and if anybody has been to a football game at Hardington, they have a beautiful field, and and stadium, but it's up on a hill, so you have to come down the hill to be able to get on the field. And the story is, I only know that I didn't see this, but the story is that there was a sprint from several of the moms, my mom being one of them. Kim Lincolnfelter, I know, was a part of it. I'm sure Denise Rogge was probably in on this too. But they were sprinting down the hill, and my mom tripped. She was supposedly in the lead, but she tripped, went into a somersault, sprung right back up into her sprint, and she says, I made it out on the field first. So, I guess maybe that's where I got some of my athleticism from, was from mom. I do also remember the entire crowd, all of our fans, our student body, our football team, on their field cheering in some sort of like a group, like a mosh pit type deal. And I remember seeing my grandpa grabbing Michael Stelling and yelling at him, and he was so happy. And I also have to give those two people much praise. You know, they went to every single one of my events, and it didn't start in high school. And they didn't do that for me. They do it for all of their grandkids. And, you know, I remember it. And it makes a difference for kids when they have someone there invested in them. And I can remember Grandma, you know, being at my soccer games, the Skunks. They were a great soccer team, but she and my grandpa went to all of those events. I kind of stepped back at that game and didn't jump around with most of the players. Justin Dorr was headbutting people without a helmet on. He was very excited, and I didn't want any part of that, so I stepped back. And most everybody was jumping up and down, but our stats guy, who was my dad, was standing on the sideline, and it wasn't raining, but he was wiping the tear away, and I was able to give him a hug, and I'll never forget that moment. They were very invested in me, and I just am very appreciative. And I think for that night, for our football team, there was no doubt that we were going to win state. We won state that night. There was no team that was going to beat us after that. It was just a great moment. I have to also thank my coaches. I know that Coach Joe Anderson right now is coaching his son in the Shrine Bowl. But Coach Anderson, Coach Fromm, Coach Boyer, Coach Green, you could not beat that football staff. They just had a knack for getting us to believe and building our confidence. And I can't say enough good things about Coach Anderson. He was just a fantastic coach, and he deserves every bit of success that he has earned in his career. Coach Klein was my basketball coach, and we were very lucky to get him. Every single one of these coaches were phenomenal, and they all had their own strengths. And Coach Klein kind of gave us a little bit more of a voice. He saw that we were an older team, and he kind of fit his scheme to fit what we wanted, and we bought into, and had success with him. Coach Schindler and Coach Mosel, which is weird to say, but my speech coaches are two of the best in the state. And it was like a family environment. After basketball practices, we would go, they would buy pizza for us to come up and practice our OIDs. And I have to say this because I saw Erica here, and I'm not sure if this is a great story to share here, but I'm going to blame it on my mom. So we had a OID when I was a sophomore, and Erica was a senior, and in the OID, Erica was a flight attendant, I believe. And in the OID, we all had to say, hey, libido. And at that time, we had no idea what libido meant. We didn't know. We were 14, 15 years old. And so we called her that nickname outside of the OID too, not knowing, just because it was like a fun thing to do in the OID. And I remember going to a basketball game early on, and she was, I think, by her parents or by somebody, and I went by and said, hey, libido, how you doing? And her mom was like, what did you just call my daughter? I had no idea, and didn't think it was a big deal, but we'll blame Coach Schindler and my mom for allowing us to do that, because we did that for quite a while. But we had so many good stories with speech and all of my events, but that is definitely one that I remember. Track too, we had Coach Green. I know I had several other track coaches, but Coach Green was my main coach. He was a phenomenal track coach too. He was a little bit irritated with the way I ran mid-distance. He didn't like that I kind of ran in a pinpoint like the 800. He didn't like that I started off slow and would finish fast. And he would always tell me, you need to come out sprinting. In my junior year, I remember we had made it to state 4x8, which is an event early on in track. And then I had to go back to the bus. So district track is towards the end of the school year. And at the end of the school year, we also had to finish what's called AR, accelerated reader, which was a torture device used on kids to read books. And the person that was in charge of AR was my mom, and she had set very high goals for me. I did not like to read. But I had to achieve this goal, so after we finished 4x8, it was kind of rainy that day, I went back to the bus and started reading. And if anybody is like me, when you read, it puts you to sleep, and I fell asleep on the bus. And the 800 was coming up, and I had no idea. I'm taking a good nap in the rain on the bus with a book, and I had a classmate come and wake me up and say, are you running the 800 today? And I said, yes, I'm running the 800. I said, it's final call, you've got to go. I said, okay, well, I grabbed my spikes and ran off with just socks on. I didn't have anything on. It was the final call, Blake Mosley here. I said, I'm here, and they just took off walking. I'm putting on my spikes. I didn't warm up. I remember looking, just a glance at Coach Green, like, oh my gosh, because I probably had my hair sticking up too. And we start the race. And as we came around, the 800 was 2 laps. As we came around the first lap, I was in dead last at districts, and I was supposed to place at least 3rd. And I just remember Coach Green yelling at me, you need to get on your horse, and it wasn't that nice or calm. He was yelling at me to speed up. So I did, I sped up, and I ended up winning the 800 at districts. And later that night, I know that my mom had usually filmed every once in a while some things, and I wanted to watch the film back because I was proud of myself. And I'm watching the film, and as I finished the first lap, she says, well, I guess Blake didn't want to try today, and the film stops. She didn't film the rest of the race because she was so mad that I was in last place. So I guess I need to watch that one back. I don't know what happens. But all of my coaches, I had the rare experience, I feel, in high school of all of my teachers were phenomenal, all of my coaches were phenomenal. It was just a great high school experience and all. I also have to give a shout out to some of my teammates too. Our dedication and their push for me to excel also, helped us have success. Harrison Lincolnfelter tore his ACL his junior year, and Bob had told us, a great idea for you guys is to bike in from our house, which they live 5 to 6 miles outside of town. Bob told us, bike in and then go to lifting. We did that, we listened to him. And Bob always gave us, his stories were great, and I loved his advice. We would bike in 5 to 6 miles, we would lift, and then we would do conditioning, and then every once in a while we would play some pickup basketball games, and then we would bike the 5 to 6 miles back out to Lincolnfelters. And I'm out of breath just saying that sentence now, so I can't imagine, what great shape we probably were in as seniors. But their push, Lincolnfelters and all of my teammates and their belief also pushed me to have success in things. Again, I just want to thank you, the alumni and my parents, teammates, coaches. It was just a great experience, and I'm very honored for this.
So the real question, Mrs. Mosul, is did he meet his AR goal? Mrs. Mosul, teacher, says yes, she met his AR goal. And Blake, there are some Hall of Fame applications around if you want to nominate your buddy David Broggy. Might be kind of tough for him to make the final cut on that. So we have 2 other inductees that weren't able to be here today. Chad Schumacher from the class of 1982 will be inducted at a wrestling event this fall. graduating class 82, just retired as a teacher and coach here this last year. And then the 2005 state championship football team, of which Blake spoke about and was the quarterback of that team. And since Blake is here, I'm going to go ahead and read that plaque for all of you in attendance. But that induction ceremony will take place on August 29th. They will have a 20-year reunion of that team on the 29th of August at our first home football game, where we anticipate that Coach Anderson will be able to be here because the team it just won't be the same if Coach Anderson can't be here. Okay, but the 2005 football team, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. That cliche speaks to the seniors on the 2005 Pirate football team who won just 3 games their first 2 seasons, only to finish with 19 wins their last 2 seasons. It's also fitting to describe the 2005 team who dropped their first game of the season before Coach Joe Anderson led them to 11 wins in their final 12 games, including a 15-point win in the state title game at UNL's Memorial Stadium. 10 players on the 2005 team earned postseason honors, making this one of the most decorated teams in the proud history of Plainview Pirate football. That is the 2005 state championship football team. Okay, yes, please. I would ask our 4 inductees that are here if you would please meet me by the Hall of Fame wall as soon as we're done so I can capture a picture. Okay, and this event was recorded and will be posted on our school website for those of you, if you are interested in going back and looking at that. I now see on the program it is time to sing. I also see Brooke coming up, so that's a bad combination, I'm afraid. So it's time to sing. That means it's time for me to turn the mic over to somebody else. Thank you all very much.
All right, we won't keep you too much longer here. If you want to check out your program, there's a treasurer's report on the back and some other just fun housekeeping things. You're all a member of the Alumni Association if you buy a ticket. So if you're interested in how our finances are doing, they're all there on the back. If you have any questions about that, I think Ann Fromm handles most of those things. It is also a Clown Festival.